Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia. The story is over and all questions are off. Of course, before the fight, the Tank was the clear favorite, and in general, his skill set seemed to be more solid, but no one could imagine that it would be so easy for him. The fight was simply not competitive, and it begged the question, who would be able to stop this knockout monster? In fact, there are more candidates for this role than you might think. But first things first, friends, today's video will be dedicated to the lightweights who could beat Gervonta Davis. Please don't forget about the likes, comments with 4 words, and subscribe to the channel so you will never miss any upcoming videos. Here we go. Devin Haney. Obviously, the list of Gervonta Davis kryptonites has to start with Devin Haney. The guy started setting records back in his youth, becoming the youngest member of the US junior national team at the age of 14. 6 years ago, when the Tank was tearing up the featherweight division and no one ever heard of Haney at that same time, there was a brief sparring between the guys, the results of which were reported in one of the interviews by Floyd Mayweather Sr.
How did that go?
How did it go? Man, don't even ask the question. it ain't even worth asking because it was a one-way deal. It only one man controlled it, and that was Devin Haney.
Sounds interesting, doesn't it? At that time, many people did not take the old man's word seriously. They thought it was just a PR because Devin was a pupil of Senior, but years later, it became clear that Floyd's father was not exaggerating about the potential of the dream. He had nurtured a true undisputed champion. In 2019, Haney took his first important title, dismantling the talented and undefeated Russian Vasyl Abdullayev in just 4 rounds. And from that moment, a genuine kid only raised the bar. Devin defended the title for 3 times against progressively more dangerous contenders and then got the chance to claim all the important belts in the fight against George Kambosos. The unbeaten Aussie beat Teofimo Lopez in a close fight and it looked like it was an even match on the paper. But Devin completely butchered the champ and was even more dominant in the rematch. Haney reached such heights before his 24th birthday, besides being younger than Ryan Garcia, who was unanimously called the greatest prospect of the last few years. What made Haney such an inconvenient fighter, and why does he have so many chances to beat Gervonta? The most acute question is the style of fighting. We all saw how easily and almost effortlessly the Tank crushed Garcia and won round after round, but it's a rarity in Gervonta's fights. Davis is much more likely to let his opponent take the lead, losing on the judges' scorecards until eventually his opponent gets tired and misses one wild punch. Yes, maybe it still works with most, but in a bout with Haney, Gervonta is very likely to feel helpless. Thanks to proper strength distribution, the Dream doesn't get tired, can work at his chosen pace for at least an hour or 2, and has amazing reflexes that are 100% enough to not miss a combat missile from a Tank. But the main problem in such a fight for Gervonta will not be cardio, but size. How many times have we seen tall guys with long arms and fairly agile legs cause Davis problems? Both Mario Barrios and Hector Garcia dismantled the Baltimorean at long range, and he literally couldn't do anything to them. So why Haney couldn't do the same? Just like the guys mentioned, he's several inches taller than Gervonta, and his reach can generally be described as abnormal for that weight. In addition, Devin is terrific on the feet, instantly cuts or breaks the distance, and with his front hand work can negate all the Tank's feints. Once again, I'm not claiming that the Dream is guaranteed to beat Davis. The puncher always has his fair share of chances, but Haney has all the keys he needs to crack the code lock of Gervonta's technique and take all the hype for himself. It's not long until the fight between Devin and former champion Vasyl Lomachenko, and after they meet, we will very likely know the name of Gervonta's next opponent. Vasyl Lomachenko.
I would have loved to see Tank, and the ship has sailed on it, I think, with a prime Loma. Loma, I think, is probably a few years past his prime, but with a prime Loma. Oh my goodness, I would have loved to have seen that. And of course, Loma's got a tough task in front of him.
There is one more name among potential rivals of Gervonta, so let's continue with him. Vasyl Anatolyevich Lomachenko is the benchmark of technical skill in the understanding of Ukrainian school of boxing. We all know Lomachenko, and most of us are used to equating him with Alexander Usyk. However, it is not quite true because Loma is more technical, more experienced and smaller, and as a consequence much faster. In contrast to Usyk, he has been boxing since birth under his father's brilliant coaching, who molded Vasyl into a real machine capable of crushing technical performance. In general, Lomachenko has several strengths, such as experience. In terms of the number of fights he's had, Vasyl would give a handicap to the 99% of his colleagues. No, it makes no sense to look at this pro record, as Lomachenko devoted many years to amateur boxing, where he had 396 wins with only one defeat. But that's not what's so exciting about him. The Ukrainian became Olympic champion twice in various weight classes. What an insane level of boxing skill! Vasyl also distinguished himself as a pro by becoming the first boxer in history who took the belt of one of the major associations in just the third fight. If Lomachenko had been promoted faster, we would not have questioned who was the best lightweight in the world now. What could the Ukrainian do to oppose the tank? The answer is quite simple: everything. The fact is that the success of a boxer in a fight largely depends on the compatibility of his style with the style of his opponent. Even with physical or speed superiority, it would be unrealistically difficult to defeat the unsuitable opponent, and unfortunately for Gervonta, Lomachenko is his worst nightmare. Let's just say Vasyl will be a tough fight for anyone, but Davis, with his weight and C tactics, may not even try to get in the ring against the Ukrainian. If Gervonta can hit Devin Haney in the best case, then it's impossible to hit Loma, even if he's in bad shape. The whole style of the genius Vasyl is sharpened to a maximum reduction of incoming damage and counterattacks from unexpected angles. He may have the same size as the tank, but it means nothing for the Ukrainian because he learned to adapt his tactics to any opponent for the years he was in the ring, and he mostly does not care what size or reach his opponent has. Lomachenko will box with Gervonta at long or medium range. Every few seconds he will shift from the line of fire and gradually introduce more and more circular or trickery moves into the game, melting the Baltimorean's brain. If this fight had been organized 4 years ago, I would have advised everyone to run to the bank, withdraw money and put it on Lomachenko. But time has not spared anyone. The Ukrainian is aging and seriously declining in physical condition. He has his technique forever, but with his slowed speed and reaction, it is much more dangerous to box against Davis. Even so, Vasyl remains one of the worst matchups for the tank to this day. Shakur Stevenson.
I honestly believe that me and Tank will be the biggest fight in boxing one day. If he continue on the path that he's on and I continue on my path, I feel like with me and him, I feel like we'll be like the most exciting, most action-packed type of fight.
We've discussed the top 2 lightweight boxers to date, but it would be impossible not to mention rising star Shakur Stevenson. I'm sure many of you are barely familiar with the name because Bob Arum and company have yet to make the kid a star, and he's only had 1 fight so far in the lightweight division. But it was just impossible to forget about Shakur. In his youth, Stevenson gave many years to amateur sports, and all that time he admired the achievements of Andre Ward. Reaching adulthood, he followed the path of his idol and went to the Olympics, where he became the first American in the last 12 years to reach the finals. As a result, Fearless won a silver medal and then went to make a fortune in professional sports. For a while, the American competed in the featherweight division and then in the super featherweight division, never changing divisions without capturing at least 1 belt. Just a year ago, Fearless faced the crazy Mexican Oscar Valdez with a 30-0 record and won 10 rounds in a bout with him, combining the WBO and WBC titles. During that time, the prospect also managed to make a name for himself as a sparring partner for Vasyl Lomachenko and champion Terence Crawford. What does Stevenson have in his arsenal? First of all, Shakur is a southpaw and is trained in all the subtleties and tricks just like a tank. He doesn't make any unnecessary movements and acts as pragmatically as possible. The main feature of the Olympian is his adaptability. He can easily go for points in one fight and succeed in it, and the next one he'll come out and knock you out in 3 to 4 rounds. Fearless doesn't have any infernal punching power, but he lands a ton of punches with ease, although knockdowns are not uncommon in his performance. It's more about well-trained timing than about brute strength though. So what's new about Shakur's own style that Gervonta hasn't already encountered? The thing is that the Olympian is not doing anything extraordinary. He's just taking the classics to the absolute, which reminds him a little bit of Vasyl Lomachenko. Thanks to his rich skill set and vast experience, Stevenson finds a way to approach his opponent and makes it physically uncomfortable to box with him. Davis is undoubtedly a dangerous puncher, and every second of the fight he will study his opponent's defense, looking for weaknesses. But with Shakur, who will also be his first left-handed opponent of this level, the tank risks to lose all important time and to lose the fight on points. If even worse, he will not let the left straight punch land on his face. Considering how quickly Fearless rises to the very top of the division, his bout with one of the top lightweight stars, Gervonta, remains only a matter of time. To summarize, I again want to remind you that this compilation is only my subjective opinion. It's possible that none of these guys can actually beat Gervonta, and he will find a way to approach them the same way he did with Ryan Garcia. I'm just saying that the tank, the same kind of person with his gaps, and there are those at lightweight who can, in theory, take advantage of them to beat Davis. What do you think about the boxers mentioned? Which one of them has the best chance of taking the tank apart? Maybe I forgot someone who you think is capable of defeating Gervonta right now. Make sure you share your opinion in the comments.